Welcome to Where Passion Meets Purpose. I'm your host, Jen Mentesana. On this show, we help busy moms and entrepreneurs find more passion and purpose in their daily lives through inspiring stories and interviews. Welcome back, everyone, to Where Passion Meets Purpose. I'm your host, Jen Mentesana. Today on the show, we have the most beautiful woman. She is a good friend of mine. I cannot wait to introduce you to Tasha Blasi. She is an entrepreneur and owner of her global consulting business, IVF Uncovered. Host of the podcast, IVF Uncovered, has been featured in Time, Dr. Jen Fit, Pregnant-ish, and Radically Loved, and was featured on The Real Housewives of New York reboot. Tasha's purpose is in helping women hold their babies sooner by crafting tailored protocols and strategies to help them through their infertility journey. Tasha, thank you so much for joining us, and welcome to the show.
Of course. Thank you so much for having me. This is so fun. Congratulations on this. I'm so glad that you're doing this.
Thank you. Me too. Well, when I first decided to start this podcast, your journey and your story was one that I definitely wanted to highlight. You are such an inspiration for what you do every day, how you help women go through one of the most challenging experiences of their lives. I know because I went through it myself, and I adore you. And I think what you're doing is so incredible, and more women need to know about what it is that you do to help them through their infertility struggles and journey, and help them really take, charge of their journey themselves and advocate for themselves, which is what you are so amazing at. But before we get to that, I wanted to kind of take you back a little bit, if you don't mind, and let us know kind of how this started for you. I mean, you were going through your own struggle of infertility, and your story and what you went through was so heartbreaking, just hearing it coming out of you for the first time. And I just want our listeners to know what you went through and how it brought you to where you are today.
Sure. Yes. So I did 10 rounds of IVF myself. We had a male factor. I was early 30s. There was really nothing wrong with me per se. But to have my 2 children, which I do have now, I needed 9 egg retrievals and 10 transfers. And that didn't spark anything in me to do anything about that. I was just so glad it was over. And then when I turned 40, I went to a coach like you, and she was like, I can help you figure out what you want to be when you grow up. And I was like, whatever, but fine, I'll pay you a couple of sessions. And this whole idea that Oprah always talks about, if you love what you do, you never work a day in your life. That was very foreign to me. I'd always worked, but I just thought that was for some people and not everyone. And of course, I know you preach this. No, everybody does have a very special gift. It just may take someone else to help you pull it out of you. So that's what happened. And she was like, you need to be a fertility coach. And I'm like, this is back in 2016. I'm like, that's not a thing. Like, what are you talking about? And she was like, let me give you a 90-day game plan. And at the time I was in New York City. I was an SVP of media sales. And I was like, I'll never have time to do this 90-day game plan. I have 2 young kids, full-time job. And 6 days later, I get fired. 6 days after I have this coaching session, I get let go. There was a new president, a new CEO. What I was working on was the old president's baby, and they were like, we're doing our own ideas. And that was of course I could have in a second gone to a competitor, gotten another job, but it was such a sign that I had to do this. And
can I just interrupt you and tell you, I can't tell you how many times I have conversations with clients and conversations on this show where there is literally, it's like the world opens up and tells you this is the path you're supposed to take. And when you do listen, it's forever changing your life. And when you don't, life keeps knocking you over the head over and over again, because you're doing the insanity thing, the definition of insanity, just going down the same path and doing the same thing over and over again. But you listened.
Yeah. And it's so true. It was like, for her saying a fertility coach was so weird, by the way. I know there are more of them out there now, but when I decided to go for it, you're right. it was like the heavens opened. It was like everything was like, yes, right? And the name of it came about. And by the way, it was the FU project before for Fertilities Unite, of course. But also like because everything in my journey, I was like, F you. But then, so that was like the name and just like the people that started coming into my life, everything. Once I made that really big leap. I'd never experienced anyone in business, any entrepreneurs. That was not my family. That was not my extended family. It was like, oh my gosh, this energy feels so right.
Yes.
So
That's
that's how it started. It was a coach like you, and then I continued. That was 2016. In 2000, I think it was just and then around in 2022, um, I started being really just an IVF consultant. So I have studied protocols from around the world since 2016. I have access, like a lot of doctors don't have the access that I do because I have thousands of clinics that I'm looking at, and I have a very research, like problem solving brain. Right? I was
well,
like a
you were
nerdy.
a biologist, or you were a biology major in college, or something like that,
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
Yeah.
And I taught biology, chemistry, like real nerdy. And I, it was like all of a sudden I was like, there's a formula here. And it really was hard. I knew that the formula was science, which is like your protocol for IVF, survival mode shift. We've got to get you as naturally healthy and well, therefore fertile as possible by rebalancing your hormones. And then spirit, right? What level of vibration are we coming in at? If I can get you into acceptance, reason, even peace, it makes it so much easier. But the science piece of it, I was like, I can't figure out how to teach that. I know it, but I can't figure out how to teach it. And so it took me years, and I worked with a brilliant fertility doctor, but I put it into a formula. What are
Mhm.
the inputs? AMH, FSH, age, follicle count, BMI, menstrual cycle, and history of how you've performed on other medications. And I've put that into a software now. So based on those inputs, you get an output of these are the priming protocols that can work for you and the doses and the timing. These are the it was so hard to do.
Yeah.
Talk about the biggest mind F, but I did it. And so that along with a book is going to be launching very soon.
Oh my gosh, so exciting. And I can't wait. We're going to dive into more about that toward the end of the show, where listeners can find you, where they can find the book and the protocol and the platform. But what I love about this conversation that we're having right now is because you basically took two parts of yourself, right? Like you just told me, okay, so I didn't necessarily go through my infertility journey and then go, oh my gosh, I want to be an IVF coach. It happened by you going through this path of discovery with your coach, but then marrying that with your biology background and your passion for figuring things out and who you innately are inside of you. And that became what makes you different and what makes you amazing at what you do, because you figured out a protocol and the science behind it. And I think that's where I want them to understand, especially our listeners, like you said in the beginning, we all have innate gifts and talents and a purpose to share with the world. And it's figuring out and tapping into those gifts and those things that you innately have and bringing them together with whatever it is that you're doing in your life. And for you, it became that purpose, right?
Yes, and to add to that, I don't anybody listening, and especially the people that I know follow you, don't be intimidated by, well, I'll never come up with a software. This took me, first of all, I've been working, I've had this business since 2016, but it's evolved. And when
Right.
you have the right coaching and when you're in the right rooms, and then you meet other entrepreneurs and you listen to what they're doing, that's how your capacity expands. So starting with like what you're talking about, what am I really passionate about? What do I like to do and talk about with people, just in general? What
Right.
do people come to me for, and what seems really easy to me that doesn't seem easy to most? That's a big one. And this is where, okay, but then how do we make that into actually a real career? That's
Correct.
where the right rooms and the coaching and everything comes in. So just, and then it's your personality.
Yeah.
Right. And so I know that there are other fertility coaches out there. I might be naive. I don't think there's any true IVF consultants like what I do, which is like, here's actually the protocol and here's how to talk to the doctor about it. And here's
Yeah.
how to bring it up. And a lot of advocacy and hand holding through the process. So I do feel like I'm the first for that, but you don't have to be the first at anything.
No.
You are the first you. And so whatever passion you have, don't think about, oh, well, Jen's done that or so-and-so's done that. Right? But they're not you. So when you're thinking about from, passion to purpose, there is that the real it factor in that is your stories, your personality, your way of executing and teaching and your business. Yeah.
That's so beautiful. I could not have said that better myself, honestly. I think that's the biggest lesson for would-be entrepreneurs, that they need to know innately who they are and trust that they have that purpose, that skill set, that special gift that no one else has, that's going to make them different from anyone else that's doing the same thing out there. There's a million, and I've talked about this on my show, we own pizzerias and there's a million pizza shops out there, right? We could worry about all the competitors on the street, or we could just focus on who we are and what we do best. And that's exactly what it is. And there's plenty of room for all of us. And I think that is such a great lesson for anyone that's just, wanting to step into this, is don't worry about what everybody else is doing. Just focus on what you care about and what you want to do. And don't let the naysayers or the dream smashers or anyone else out there to tell you, but so-and-so's doing that, or so-and-so's doing it in this way. Why aren't you doing that? Just go and do your thing and trust that you have something special inside of you to share with the world. And that is your greatest asset.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And I have found that you don't need to have anything literally figured out to get started. You do need to do something that feels right. You do need to do something that gives you energy.
Right.
And I will say everything else kind of comes along with it, including if you are going to be an entrepreneur, like it's everything kind of gets uncovered for you in terms of the mindset work you still haven't done, the patterns you still haven't broken that aren't serving you, so it's also going to be your biggest lesson in your divine life of greatness, because it's so personal, especially when you have a passion and a mission for something. It's so personal. So all that stuff starts bubbling up to the surface. And it's a great time with a coach to solve it while you're building this business. So I also don't want to want anyone to think they have to have everything figured out, because for us perfectionists, it's never a perfect time. It's never good enough, and so another piece of advice I would get is like, you really need to embrace done is better than perfect. And by the way, we have all these AI tools that will do your grammar checking for you now. Just don't sound like ChatGPT, but ask them for a grammar check. Ask them for typos. But you know what I mean? Like just get it out there, get it done and go. And when you think about, but what will so-and-so say? You have to shut that off. You have to, I know I'm like, now I'm doing all the coaching, but like,
Yeah, no, I'm loving this.
if you know who your avatar is, I know my avatar. I have her named. I know what she does. I know her profession. This is my avatar. I can speak to her. That is the only person that matters in your messaging. It's not your parents. It's not your friend. It's not your cynical so-and-so. It's not this person who judges or this person who talks about, I hope those people are not your avatar, right? Who is your avatar? Speak to her because she wants to hear it.
Yes, I love that so much. And it's where you can connect and really make the most impact is when that's all you're doing is thinking about that one person that you want to help and maybe make an impact on. I also loved what you said about perfection and just do it and don't worry about it being perfect. I think this is a lesson that a lot of people know. I have this Barbie doll that sits up on a shelf above my desk, and it reminds me that I'm not a Barbie doll and no one is perfect. Only Barbies are perfect. And lately my mantra has been progress, not perfection. It's all about
And
making
Barbies aren't
progress.
even that perfect. I mean, they don't even have all the anatomy that we have. So we're pretty.
Good point. That very good point. We wouldn't
You
be able
know,
to have.
I was just going to say, I'm trying to hold my tongue and be proper on this podcast, Jen.
You don't have to be proper. The good news is this is a podcast. It's not like we have to be monitored by, the FCC or anything, and we can talk about what we want to talk about on air here.
Yeah.
And I was just going to say, Barbies can't have babies, so
Nope.
there's that too.
Nope. Barbies can't have babies. Yep.
Right, exactly. So I was just thinking as you were talking about all your protocol and what makes you unique. And I have to say, when I was going through my infertility journey, I had an infertility coach and she was awesome. And she definitely helped me with the mindset part. And she actually inspired me to go into coaching, and which I did 15 years ago. While I was going through my infertility journey, I was getting my certification in coaching. So it was kind of like the part of that journey for me. But what I do wish is that there were more coaches that actually could consult on your protocols. I mean, there was a lot less known then than there is now. And you doing all the work since 2016 to do the research, to figure out the science is such a gift to this industry and to the women who you're working with. And I know that it's been challenging in recent years. There's been a lot of issues with fertility clinics and places maybe not always having the best interest of the client at the forefront. And I don't know if that's a topic you want to discuss, but it's certainly something that I think women who are going through, it's very important how you choose your clinic and how you choose your doctor. And I mean, is there something that you could speak to that on?
Sure. Yeah. And I will say, I think one of the biggest issues with IVF is that the IVF that you and I were doing with our 15-year-olds is the same IVF that's being done today, is the same IVF that was done 30 years ago. And so that's what I hope to change. Not all clinics, but high 90% are just doing the same protocol for everybody. And then if it doesn't work, you need an egg donor. I mean, at some point, even though I was early 30s, because it wasn't working so many times, and I went to 4 different doctors. It's not like I just kept on trying, they were like, well, I guess you need an egg donor because it's just not working. And that's what I'm hoping to help. Give the patient not just a voice, but allow them to have the education to have a conversation. Because I know for me, it was like, what can we do differently? Well, nothing. We're doing this again, or we're adding a Lupron flare. We're adding the, like little, okay. That my only answer was like, okay, or I'm confused that we keep on doing this and it keeps on not working. And so that's really the biggest part of it is like, have a voice and be a part of the conversation before dropping 20 grand and in the conversation of building your family, which nothing is more important. So yes, in terms of picking your doctor and the clinic, I definitely have a strategy for that, and it's based on the client and kind of what protocol I think would be best for them, and who I know do that. But if I'm working with somebody in another country, I have a list of questions. If you go to my website, tashablasi.com, you get to take an IVF quiz, and then you get sent not only a bunch of tailored resources, but other resources like supplement guides and how to, initial conversations for the doctor, things like that. So just go to tashablasi.com and sign up and you'll get all that. But when I'm working with somebody who, again, this is another country, I don't know the clinics or that doctor well, here are the questions asked. And the number one thing I ask my client afterwards is, okay, so how do you feel? Tell me, I want to hear about what they said. I've already looked at the answers. How did you feel? So when people are asking me, what's your best advice? What's the number one thing? If it doesn't feel right, it's not. I don't care if this is the most famous clinic or doctor. We live in LA and everyone's like, oh, I'm going to the so-and-so's doctor. And I
Right.
always say, but they were famously unsuccessful at IVF. So this isn't a good thing, right? Like the fame of it, this name. I'm going to this name of the clinic,
I
right?
know when I was going through it, yes, Tasha, when I was going through it, same thing. Like I got given all, up in Beverly Hills, all the names of the doctors that you want to go to and went to them. And I'll tell you I didn't even go through even the beginning of it to try to get pregnant because the initial consultation was so awful. The doctor was so hard and uncaring about my situation. And it was more like I was just, a science project for him than a human being trying to have her first child. And I think so many women feel that way. And, we all listen to the names and we get recommendations and we think that that's the right path to go. But when you ask that question, how do you feel? That's what matters most, because if you feel good, you're going to have more positive results.
Yeah. And your intuition is right.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
Exactly.
The energy is right. So how do you feel? And then, of course, it's how they answer certain questions. And when it comes to technical things, yes, I know that, but I'm hoping with my book and software, other people will know that. But I give you in that guide the questions to ask and what we're kind of looking for. Something like, what's the protocol going to be? I can't put in a chart like what you should look for, but the other questions, you get a sense for how communicative they are, and that is so huge. Can you
Right.
actually talk to your doctor after this sales pitch happens? Right? For so many, the answer is there's a portal or there's a nurse or you have to pay to talk to your doctor again. Like, are you kidding me? Right? So yeah, that's a big part of it is the answers and the energy. And you are correct. You are
Yeah.
correct. Period.
Exactly. Well, that is just so helpful for anyone who, either is going through infertility themselves right now. If you have a friend or a sibling, a sister, and you're feeling like the path is just not the right path for you and you're struggling, Tasha is definitely the person to reach out to. Knowing her for at least 6 years now, I've listened to her and all her stories and how she's been able to kind of hold the hand of the women that she works with through this journey, which truly is a difficult journey. But once you're on the other side of it, it's the greatest gift and blessing. And Tasha is so amazing in helping all these women do that. So we'll definitely get more information on how to contact her in the show. I just want to ask you one question again about going back to your journey to entrepreneurship. I mean, what was the moment, aside from working with your coach, what was the moment where you felt like, yeah, I can actually make this happen and really make money and do this for a living? Because I think that's a lot of the fear in entrepreneurship. Sure, we can all dive into what our passion is and we can all open up, our visions for what our dream life is, but how are we going to structure and build a business that's actually going to be sustainable and lucrative? Was there a time in which you knew that was the case, and how did you get there?
Yeah, I would say that was with my second coach that I worked with my second coach. His name is Taylor Welch. I actually started working with him again this year. Like I said, you have coaches for different parts of your business and different reasons. And so I had the coach that told me what to do, right? What I should be when I grew up. And then I had the coach to help me build a business where I thought, oh my gosh, this could actually be a business. This is actually something where I can make this my career instead of a hobby or something on the side. This is something, I can make it full time. So again, it was coaching that did that
Wow.
for me. I also think it's important to know what your goal is, because you don't have to have a multi-million dollar business. It could be like a feeling. I want a business that gives me a feeling, that gives me connection, that allows me to go on like retreats like the ones that you do. And, so it's also good to just understand what are your specific goals, and don't make those based on what other people feel are really important to them. Like,
Yes.
you talk about the 6-figure business, 7-figure business, 8-figure, is that important to you? Great. But
Right.
why?
Why?
Because
Right.
because there's a lot that comes along with that,
Yeah.
right? And so just understanding what is your actual goal and then kind of reverse engineer it and allow that to be flexible and change. But coaching got me
Yeah, amen.
going.
Well, I mean, you're speaking my language, you know that,
Yeah.
and I'll just add on to that being an entrepreneur prior to relaunching my coaching business for female entrepreneurs, running a business with my husband and getting to a place where we were successful and knowing that okay, we're good. We've got the life, we've got the kids, we've got the community, we've got all the things, and still not feeling fulfilled. And knowing that it's not really about getting to the mountain, right? It's not really about that place where you're like, oh, I succeeded. It's more about getting to the place where every day you're waking up doing something that you love, that fills you up, that you have passion for, that gives you a purpose in life, that fulfills what your purpose is, what I believe to be God's purpose for you. And ultimately is the thing that when you die, you know that you came here and did what you were supposed to do. And I think that's really deep down when you get to a place in your life where you know that that's the answer. It's game changing because you can chase for decades something that doesn't exist. And yes, money is important and we all need to make money and we all need to pay our bills and we want to live a certain lifestyle and that's all important, but it doesn't give you that joy that you're looking for. And so you really do need to find that thing that, makes you tick. Right.
Right. I mean, they talk about what actually makes people happy. And it's like, yes, love, growth, contribution, and service. Right. And so I think we get caught up in the money aspect of it. How many people do I know with a ton of money that I would never want any other part of their lives? I wouldn't mind their bank account, but literally no other part of their lives or no other part of their health or,
Yep.
and so it's what really matters. Am I growing? Am I always growing? Right. I'm always growing as an entrepreneur, as a woman, as a mom, as a
Yes,
wife. Am I
absolutely.
contributing? Because it really does matter to serve a community and to
Yeah,
be in a community. That's where I learn the most is my communities, right? Serving communities is what gives me energy. And yeah,
absolutely.
how can I
I agree.
contribute? Whether,
I
yeah,
agree. And you touched on something I want to just touch on before because I know we're running out of time, but I did want to bring this up. And I've talked about this on my show before because I want women to know this was a struggle that I went through for years. First of all, trying like you did for years to have a baby and want to be a mom and enjoy that. And then getting to a place in my life where I realized I love being a mom. And of course, I love my children. I do everything for them, but that doesn't mean it's my entire purpose. And I think that in this day and age, women, and especially in like a community where we live, where there's women who are stay-at-home moms, and there's a lot of guilt when you're a working mom or an entrepreneur. You feel guilty when you're not with your kids, and then when you're with your kids, you feel like, oh my gosh, I should be working, and it's this constant struggle. And I think when you get to a place where you realize that you can be everything to your children that they absolutely need, and you can also fulfill a purpose that's not just about them but also about yourself, and giving yourself the gift of allowing yourself to fulfill that purpose, and not feel guilty about it. Right.
100%. Right.
Yeah, yeah, it's
Yeah.
kind of
I
one of
love that.
those.
I've always thought, yeah, you're exactly right. It's like if the women that we know that stay at home, they're always, now I'm missing who I am. And then the
Right.
women that have always worked are like, I feel so guilty that I'm missing time with my children. And listen, everything is chaotic and you're not going to do anything perfect and you're never going to be in perfect balance. So sorry to ruin to
As I
ruin
like to
that theory.
Yeah, it's like, as I like to say, balance is bullshit, right? Like we
Yeah,
all
I mean, it's always going to be, oh, that was good, that was out of balance. But again, if know your goals with your household, with your children, with your marriage, because that's a whole other thing. Oh my gosh, I need to focus on the marriage. Like, can't just something just run
Yeah.
on kind of auto? No, it
No.
can't.
Yeah.
I'll get nerdy on you, like entropy, right? What was that,
Mhm.
third law of thermodynamics? You have to put energy in for order. And
Yes.
so anything, it's always going to look a little bit messy, but guess what? Messy is beautiful, right?
Yes.
Like, my house is messy. Does it
Mm.
make me like crawl a little bit? Yes, right? When I see my cute Bella sitting on top of my very nice cushions and she gets off and every cushion is squished and it looks like somebody just like banged like it looks like a mess. But guess what? That's because I have a really cute dog and I have kids, and it's a lot of love. So if we
Yeah.
can also embrace that messy is actually a sign of beauty and love and energy and stuff happening,
Yeah.
right?
Life
And
happening. Life happening.
yeah,
Yes.
it's like,
Absolutely.
why is that a bad thing? Well, because I don't like how it looks. Okay, but what's the feeling that you want in this house? A museum? Do you want a museum house?
Right.
Right? Nobody wants to live in that.
Right.
So I think if we go back to the theme, like, how do you feel about it? What is your goal for it? I think you can start to, again, reverse engineer and say that isn't that important. And by the way, if my neighbor does come over and I'm very embarrassed that my couch looks all hairy and gross, that's okay, because my neighbor is not my mission. My
Right.
goal in life, if I set out my goals, nowhere are you going to find impress my neighbor.
Right.
So
I was just going to
why?
say impress, right? Yeah, exactly.
Right. So why am I putting energy and thought towards it? Just shrug and be like, at least I'm on mission. I'm on
Yeah.
brand. I'm on mission. I got to focus my energy somewhere else.
Absolutely. Tasha, you are so spot on. And I think you're going to resonate with so many women who maybe feel this way inside, but haven't found that ability yet to like just fully own it and step into it. And so I love how clearly and eloquently you have been speaking about your passion, your purpose, what you do, your family, and just, everything you're about. So, this is why you're a good friend of mine and I adore you, and so happy that you were able to come on the show today. So tell our listeners where we can find you, where we can find this upcoming book and, a platform and program and all that good stuff.
Yeah, the best thing is go to tashablasi.com and do that quiz. I mean, if you just want to follow me, social media, Tasha Blasi on Instagram. My Facebook fan page got hacked.
Oh, yikes. Well, that's
It's
been
like
happening lately.
but
Yeah.
it's fine. I don't need to, whatever. But go to tashablasi.com. Take if you want IVF advice, right? Go to tashablasi.com and take the quiz, because then you will actually get tailored advice, and then you will be an insider and you will start to get, again, more resources. I'm very particular about what I send out. It is not fluff. It is all about real advice and love and inspiration. So that's what I would do. But if you just are wondering kind of what I'm doing as a mom in a business, I would follow me on Instagram. That's Tasha
Perfect.
Blasi. Yep.
Tasha Blasi, and it's Blasi, right?
Yes.
We'll have that
Yes.
in the show notes. Tasha, thank you so much for spending this time with us on Where Passion Meets Purpose. So grateful to have you in my life and can't wait to have you back on again.
And congratulations on your new purpose and putting this together. I know you've been wanting to do this for years and you just did it. And
Yep.
that's exactly how it goes. I'm sure it's messy. I'm sure it's not perfect. I'm sure you can think about a million things that you'd like to do it better, but you just did it. You just go and then you slowly figure it out along the way.
Thank you again for listening to Where Passion Meets Purpose. If you're enjoying this show, please subscribe and download it so you don't miss an episode every single week. And if you think you have a friend who might benefit from listening, please share it with them as well. If you'd like to contact me, you can always reach me through email on my website at jenmentesana.com and my social media, Jen_Mentesana. And you can DM me there and I'll always respond, and we can connect about topics on the show or anything else you'd like to discuss. Thanks again for tuning in.